Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Drive Time here on this lovely April 14th day in Ohio. It's 70 degrees out, which is a nice, you get a 70-degree day in Ohio in April. You always got to love it. I'm going to be joined here in a little bit by Dylan. He's working out some camera issues, so as soon as he gets that in, we'll bring him on stage. And you might even be able to say, yeah, there's Peeve. And Peeve is deciding to join me for today's show, aren't you, buddy? So welcome, everyone. Peeve joins us in for the show. But anyway, as we always start with what am I wearing? And of course, today I just went with a basic t-shirt. I'm going with the Hockey Hall of Fame. Just felt like a Hockey Hall of Fame kind of day. Didn't really feel any of the other jerseys in there. So we're going with that today with the for the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I think he might be ready to go here. So let's see here. I'm gonna bring him in.
Yep,
Dylan,
I'm
can you
good.
hear me?
Yeah,
There
I
he
can
is.
hear you.
Now he's straight. See, earlier he was sideways on us. We didn't want to bring him in sideways. That
Yeah,
wasn't
we're
going to
good
be
to
good
go
for
now.
anybody.
So, yeah.
Look at that. So, Dylan, I always start with what am I wearing? I went over my Hockey Hall of Fame shirt, and I know we're going to get into a little bit later the breaking the plane thing, but you're wearing it, so I'll let you go ahead and give it a quick shout out.
Oh, yeah. So, Breaking the Plane, that's actually what I do for my full-time job, selling autographed memorabilia and sports cards. And we stream live on YouTube 5 days a week.
That's right. It's all good stuff here. And I'm trying to get the other Facebook stream up here real quick here. So let me do that here real quick. And while I'm doing that here, let's go ahead and get this here started. So we'll get started here with a look in the rear view mirror. And we're going to go back. I didn't really get a chance too much to go into the Monday because this obviously was after we aired on Monday was the men's championship, the game between Florida and Houston, and Florida coming back from behind to win that. But part of what I do is, of course, the "Oh Say Can You Sing." I'm going to pull that up, and while I pull that up, Dylan, any thoughts on the final game between Florida and Houston, and Florida winning the big national championship?
Yeah, all the smart money was on Florida the whole time, and it seems like they had the right inside track, and they were able to pull it out. So yeah, I picked Florida going into the game. So the final game was the result that I expected, but my bracket was busted ages before that. So
I hear you on that. I agree. I had similar things. I actually had Houston in the final, but a lot of what I had before then was not working out so well. So. But one of the things that I do is this: the "Oh Say Can You Sing." This kind of started with Midnight Rider, one of the other guys in one of the other shows, where I am an official anthem junkie. I love the anthems before games. So we started deciding, I have the Super Bowl rankings, which I'll show you those, my all-time Super Bowl rankings since you're on and maybe new. Of course, Whitney Houston is the number one, from Super Bowl 25. That's
for
the
halftime
standard.
shows.
Yes, or for the national anthem from the not for halftime shows. This is the national anthem before the Super Bowl. So,
Yep.
so Whitney is the number one gold standard, and then it goes from there. Chris Stapleton was a pretty close number two. I really liked his anthem a few years ago, and then we go down the list. So that's kind of what started this. So now this is big anthems since the Super Bowl, which we had the Four Nations tournament in hockey, which had a couple good ones. We had the women's ice hockey national championship, and then of course we just had the men's and the women's. So I'll start on the women's side, which was a young lady by the name of Ayla Brown. She did a really nice job. It was a solid anthem. She actually played for BC and now is singing kind of professionally too. So I like the connection that they did with her. She's good. It was a solid 45 out of 50 points. Every one of these I give out to a 10. So she got a 45. So she's going to end up being third when I move these all up and down. But for now, I just got them right here so that way everyone can see them. And then Robert Carter did the men's. He's a retired Air Force Master Sergeant. His was really, really good. I really liked his anthem. He was strong, had a great voice, got a little pitchy in one spot, so I had to ding him on getting pitchy. As a good old Randy Jackson used to say on American Idol, "It's a little pitchy, dog. It's a little pitchy." But
oh yeah, I remember that.
but besides for that, he knocked it out of the park in every other category. So he gets a 47. So now he will be tied for the best one that I've seen since we started doing this, which was after the last Super Bowl is when I kind of started. So this is just my little shtick that I do, but we had two more anthems to add, so I had to add them to it.
I like that. Yeah, your Super Bowl rankings are good. I can't dispute Whitney at number one. Everyone should have Whitney at number one. I like seeing Jordan Sparks get a little mention of the top 10 there because that was definitely solid. So
Yeah, she was. I had to go back and listen to all these to get them, which is funny going back to like some of these old school ones, like the older anthems. Like some of them was just the band and the crowd singing it. Some was just trumpet only. So there's no words. I can't really rate it. And there's some I just couldn't find any for yet. But I'm gonna keep looking to see if I can find them at some point in time. But yeah,
Yeah,
Whitney's the number one, and so we always have fun with that. So I always have to start with that. So.
love it. That's cool.
There we go. All right, so there's our Jose Can You Sing. Let me stop sharing that here so we can get into this. So let's get into some meat and potatoes here. Both of us are kind of in the Cleveland area guys, and over the course of the weekend, Joe Flacco signed his big contract with the Cleveland Browns. Which is kind of an interesting pickup. I kind of thought when they were picking up Joe Flacco that would probably meant that they're not going to do much with Kirk Cousins. I really don't know what they're going to do with number 2 pick, but it kind of seems like today the rumors are picking up again that they're still going to go after Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, and to me that makes just no sense. You brought in Flacco as the vet already, unless you're just hoping he'll start the season as the backup. I don't really know why you're going after Kirk. Because it's in the Browns' best interest to take a quarterback even in the second or third round of the draft if they don't in the first. From my perspective, you got to go Abdul Carter at number 2. He's such a talent, and you put him next to Myles Garrett, you're going to have a pass rush that's going to be game-wrecking for 5 to 7 years. But the Browns, I could see them trading into the late first round, maybe if someone like a Jackson Dart slips. And in that case, you got Flacco starting the first few games, and then when the rookie's ready, get him in there. But the Browns always do decisions, Deshaun Watson, and even before that just make me scratch my head. And this is one of them, pursuing Kirk Cousins when you just brought Flacco in. Don't get it.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I don't get the need for it. I mean, and I kind of honestly thought, okay, if you had to pick between the two of Joe Flacco and Kirk Cousins, I probably would go. I think I like the Flacco move up more than Cousins. I think, especially if you look at what they did last year, they both had their issues. But I think Flacco's cheaper than whatever you're going to have to send off to pay Kirk Cousins, and then B, whatever you're going to have to trade Atlanta to get him. I don't see the need for him. I 100% agree with you. Oh, and you still have Deshaun Watson on your team that you got to figure out what you're going to do with him.
But Haslam finally admitted it was a mistake. He finally admitted it. So.
Finally, yeah. We'll see how that goes. Speaking of mistakes. I'm a Kent State grad, so I have to share my misery of how bad Kent State football is. And just when I think it can't get worse, they continue to prove me wrong and get worse. This Friday, they fired their head coach, Kenny Burns. He was an amazing 1-23 in his 2-year stint. He first goes 1-11, and then like you do with all coaches that go 1-11, you give him a contract extension and you pay him more money. And then he followed that up by going 0-12 this last year. So they are on a 19-game losing streak, the longest in the nation. They fired this guy now. Sadly, it's not because of what he did on the football field. He's being sued by a credit card company for running up something like $24,000 in credit card debt that he's not paying. Keep in mind he's got a $495,000 salary with the university. There's some rumors out there now. This part is just rumor. I don't have anything to back it up, but that he was using NIL money to pay for some of these debts, and it just so they first put him on admin leave, and now they have fired him. They've made Mark Carney their OC, the current interim coach, while they do a national search. But I'm here to say this for anyone that knows the local market. Josh Cribbs, a former Cleveland Brown great, played for Kent State. He has been, for whatever reason, as Pete walks across, he has been wanting this job for the last 2 years, and he's openly campaigning for the job.
Wow.
I don't think that there's a need to do. He's never coached a second in his life, but if the guy wants this job, and it's a terrible job, it's the worst job probably in Division I football, and he says he's got coaches that are willing to come in with him to help run the program and help him bring the program back. And most importantly, he says he's got NIL contacts that can get NIL contracts to Kent State and get players here. I say, why not give him a shot? It can't get worse.
Yeah,
right?
it can't get worse. Yeah, and it could be that spark, that just gets. I mean, extreme example, but look at Dion and his personality and what he brought out in Colorado.
Right.
It'd be nice to see Kent State get back to bringing some pizzazz and maybe back to the glory days like Julian Edelman and Sean Bayes tearing it up out there.
Yeah, Sean Bass reference. I love it. That well, he'll get a kick out of that if he ever finds the show. That'd be great. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's something, and and I've always, look, my years at Kent State, there we've suffered through a lot of bad football teams. I never get why. Like this area has such football talent. Like it should be a good program, just surviving off of the scraps that the Ohio States and the Penn States and the Michigans don't take. But
Right.
they've never been able to do it, consistently. They've had these spurts of a couple years, and then it falls back off the wagon again. And a lot of that's because they don't want to pay their head coach, which I get. It's the MAC is always a stepping stool for these coaches. So they start to build something and then they leave, and you're starting over from scratch again, which is hard.
Yeah, I know the pain. I'm a Syracuse guy, and Syracuse never relevant, not since like Donovan McNabb. Ryan Nassib was a draft prospect a little bit back, but yeah, not much going good for Syracuse. So,
Well, we stole your old coach. We had Sean Lewis there before this guy, and then he left to go to be the offensive coordinator in Colorado and flamed out. And now I think he's at San Diego State, and he was terrible there the first year, which I kind of enjoy because the way he left Kent State was just that's part of the problem too. Is the way that he left this program. Really, Kenny Burns didn't have much to even work with for the first year, so I don't really blame him for going 1-11. But there was no sign of improvement from year 1 to year 2, and they play Mercyhurst their first game this year, which is a Division II team. So that's their one chance to win a game, because after that, I think it's Texas A&M, Penn State, and like our next 4 teams are against teams that are just going to shellac us. So it's win this first one and end the streak, or the streak could hit well over 20 games.
oof.
So could be ugly, but that's the history of Kent State football. All right, let's talk with something good here. Rory McIlroy and the Masters, it never seems to disappoint on Sunday afternoon. Look, I'm not a huge golf fan, but there's something about the Sunday at the Masters that's just fun to put on the TV and watch. And yesterday did not disappoint again with Rory McIlroy winning his first green jacket and finally getting his career Grand Slam that he has been chasing forever.
Yeah.
Did you get to see any of it?
Yeah, and it's been 11 years since he won last, so it's been quite a while for him, and it was just so cool to see, like, the emotion that overcame him when he won, and just how pumped up he was. It just seemed like it's really good for the sport. There's just been this kind of vacuum since Tiger Woods left, and it was stopped being as relevant, I should say. And seeing Rory come back and take one, it's just great for the game.
Yeah, I agree. It was fun to watch, and I will dig back into my thoughts on it. But just to real quick put this little thing here from Jack, who hosts one of the other shows. He's having a little fun with my Kent State. I thought Kent State was a badminton school. They're not even that good. Although their baseball team's actually doing well this year. They're second in the MAC, but we'll see how that goes. So, just to throw that out there, what he said on good old Kent State. But yeah, it was fun to watch. Like, first this was all supposed to be this big duel between Rory and Brian DeChambeau, and DeChambeau started off with the lead and then kind of fell off, and then McIlroy's up by 4 strokes and looks like he's just going to take this thing home, and then he falls apart. And Justin Rose, who had a really good day, he's got the lead at some point in time after Rory double bogeys. I think it was on 13 when he had the last double bogey, but then Rory comes back, hits that putt on 17 to take the 1-shot lead. He's got the up and down from the bunker on 18. Has a great bunker shot. I thought he almost was going to hold it, but he leaves himself, I think it was like 4 feet short, 5 feet short, and then he misses the putt to have to go to the playoff. And Rose hits that. They both have amazing second shots. Rose, I think, left himself from 8 feet from the pin, and Rory comes up second and gets even closer to him. And then Rose just misses the putt, and Rory drains it for his first green jacket. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, I couldn't believe the missed putt. That just blew my mind. That was crazy.
Yeah, Jack says Rory was throwing darts on the front 9, and he was. It was not good for him to start, but then, but the ending was just crazy, and I was happy for him. I like seeing these guys that haven't won it, win one. It was fun, for sure. So, good for the Masters. It'll be interesting to see how the ratings turn out. I'm sure they will be stellar when you have a.
They should be very good. Yeah.
So since it looks like Tiger's officially done, I don't see him coming back with the torn Achilles and stuff. That's going to be hard work for him. So, all right, but this is why I brought Dylan here because look, I fully admit I am not an NBA expert in the latest, but if I want to be, if I'm going to host a show, I've got to have somebody on here that knows basketball, and Dylan is that guy for me. He's my go-to basketball guy. So I brought him in to help me out with some NFL playoff or NFL, some NBA playoff predictions. And let me here, I'm going to bring up here with us. I'm going to share the lovely screen
Get
here,
that
but
bracket going, yeah.
while I do this here, I think I finally understood this. So help me out. Let's make sure that I've got this understood. I think I finally figured out how these playing games work. So
okay, yeah, you explain, I'll pipe in. Sure.
10 plays 9, and the loser is out, right?
Yes, correct.
All right. 7 plays 8, and the winner is the 7 seed.
Mm-hmm.
And then the loser of that 7-8 plays the winner of 9-10 for the 8 seed. Do I have it right?
You've got it. Yes.
All right. It only took me 3 years.
So you want to be in that 7-8 game. You don't want to be in the 9-10. Because if you're in that 7-8 game, you win. You're the 7 seed. You're playing against the 2 seed. If you lose that game, your best case scenario is just to be the 8 seed. And again, if you're in the 9-10 game, your best case scenario is the 8 seed. So you really want to be in that first game.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'm just happy I figured it out. That took me years to figure out, like, how does this even work? Because it's not, it's not like how they do it college basketball where the play-ins, whoever wins it is in. This one is kind of a little bit different. So let's start with these playing games. Let's start with the East. So we got 7-8. We got Magic against Hawks, and then we got the Bulls against the Heat. Who do you like between these 4 to get into the big dance?
Yeah. So my predictions here. I mean, Trae Young for the Hawks. He just ignites in playoff time. As a Knicks fan, I got PTSD from that series when the Knicks just got destroyed by Trae Young in the Julius Randle era. So Trae Young ignites at playoff time, kind of like Jimmy Butler does. I see the Hawks winning that one easily and getting the 7 seed, setting them up against the Celtics. And Miami Heat now, they don't have Jimmy Butler anymore. And that was their ace in the hole come playoff time. The Bulls have a lot of energy. Bulls should win that game. But the Magic should take care of business in the final game of that play-in to secure the 8th.
Well, one of the other guys that here that the host one of the show, KG, kind of seems like he agrees with you. The Bulls are surging, but won't get out of the playing stage. So I think he kind of is feeling that you are, that those 2 teams will come out of it, the Magic and Hawks. And Jack is he's just a Celtic guy. So he's just that's all he cares about is the Celtics repeating. So
big on the Celtics, huh? See, I love Jaylen Brown, but Jason Tatum, he's not my kind of player.
All right, so you got those 2 coming in on the East. Who do you like in the West? You got the Warriors against the Grizzlies. After the Warriors, I think they lost yesterday to fall into the play-in game, and then you got the Kings and the Mavericks in the 9-10.
Yeah, so on paper, you just want to say Warriors, of course, but the Warriors have a really bad history in the play-in games. They don't do well with that one-and-done environment. Recall years where LeBron's Lakers have knocked them out, they haven't made it out of the play-in. But they're going to get this done. I got the Warriors winning this game, but look for it to be a lot closer than you might think. They're not going to blow them out by 30 points. The Kings and the Mavericks. A lot of buzz about Anthony Davis coming back, but he's never had a chance to gel with this team. The Knicks are very scrappy. Sabonis will be out there. He's always a presence. Of course, they're missing De'Aaron Fox after the trade, but I got the Kings taking that down, setting us up with a Grizzlies and Kings final game. And I got the Grizzlies winning that one to take the 8 seed and go play against the Thunder.
So you're going chalk, it sounds like, for both of the play-ins. You got the 7 and 8s eventually coming out of this thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
A different order in the East, but yeah.
Yep, I gotcha. So, all right. So I think if I got you right, then so that means then that you'd have the Cavaliers would be facing the Magic then, because they're losing the first one, but then winning game 2, right?
Yes. And okay. I've got a lot of concerns about the Cavs going into the postseason. They had 2 big red hot streaks during the regular season, but faltering towards the end. And it seems like they peaked too early. And they'll have enough to get past the Magic, but it's going to be the kind of series where you're seeing a lot of holes in the Swiss cheese, and the second round's not going to bode well for them.
Okay, gotcha on that. So you like them to at least get by the Magic, which I remember there was one game I actually did. I've seen a few of the Cavs game, and they were beating the Magic, and then the Magic came back in the fourth quarter and beat them. That's the one game I watched. So I think I don't know that it's a good matchup for them. The Magic seem to play them well, but I think in the 7 game series that they should win it. But I think a lot of people in Cleveland might think that series is going to go 4 or 5, where I think it could be more of that 6, 7 game range.
I'm with you there. Yeah, it's going to be tough for Cleveland.
Okay. So let's go 4 or 5. We got Pacers Bucks.
Yeah, so the Bucks, there's rumors Lillard might be back for the second half of this series. The Pacers really have the Bucks number. They knocked them out of the playoffs last year, and it's going to take a Herculean effort from Giannis to win this series. But Giannis is Hercules. He's incredible. He's the Greek freak for a reason. I got this one going 7, and the Bucks squeaking it out. This will be a very fun series to watch. I think every game's going to be close.
Yeah, I think if you look on paper, it's one of the better ones of these first round matchups, at least as far as what you could have going in, game out for sure. So I can't argue with you on that one. I'll follow right along with you with the Milwaukee pick. So all right, so then that gives us to the Knicks and the Pistons.
Oh, my Knicks. The Knicks are always a disappointment in the playoffs, and Cade Cunningham is surging. He was a borderline MVP candidate this year, and just seeing his growth after such a slow start, how he's really matured, like his game this weekend, setting a career high in points. That was so awesome. The Knicks don't match up well against the Pistons. They've lost to them multiple times this year. I want the Knicks to win, but I'm taking the Pistons in an upset. I think the Pistons take this one down in 6 games. Knicks are going to come out flat.
We didn't even plan this, but yesterday I was in my comments with guys on the Sunday Morning Rise show. This was my upset pick for the East. Was the Pistons beating the Knicks? I don't
really
know.
Okay.
I know the Pistons kind of were faltering off a little bit towards the end, but they're a fun team, and I just don't trust the Knicks for some reason in the playoffs. And I think the Pistons could shock the Knicks. I don't really think it matters because I don't see either one of these two teams beating Boston in a 7 game series in the next round. So that gets us to Boston against Atlanta, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
We'll throw this in here real quick because he put this in here. So we got to give him his little comment here because Jack put in here. Celtics also have the best 6-man in the league in Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah, Peyton Pritchard's been he's always a good guy to have in there. And I remember their first run to the championship. He just was hitting so many clutch threes. So he's a player that shows up extremely well in the postseason too. So Jack's got a good point there. The Hawks are just going to be overmatched. They'll be lucky to win a game. I'll call it a gentleman's sweep for the Celtics. They take the foot off the gas in game 4 to do a little load management and close it out in 5.
All right, I can't disagree with you there. So that means we got the Cavs against the Bucks, and then we got the Pistons against the Celtics. So it sounded like you were maybe hinting towards that you could see the Cavs getting upset in this round.
Yeah, I would take the Bucks in this series. Donovan Mitchell is a regular season phenomenon, regular season champ, but he crumbles in the playoffs every time. I do love Darius Garland. He's an X factor, and if he starts going off, it could be something different. But the Bucks are gonna, if they can, I'm more concerned about the Bucks against the Pacers than Cleveland. So if the Bucks can get through that Pacers series healthy, it's going to be a grueling one. But if they can get through that healthy, they'll have so much momentum, and I think they beat the Cavs in 6.
I've been saying for a couple of months, and this is a total homer in me, but I want the final to be the Lakers against the Cavs, just because I think that would be must-watch TV, especially for this Cleveland area. I think the whole country would find it intriguing too, but I think especially around here, it would be must-watch TV. So for that reason, since that's what I said 2 or 3 months ago, I've got to stick with that. So I think the Cavs will win this series just because I want to see the Lakers in Cleveland. So obviously, you can tell where I'm foreshadowing.
I would love that matchup. It'd be great. And what a storyline. LeBron facing his former team. It could be his last time in the finals. He doesn't have that many years left. High drama. Lakers Celtics, though, is also always an intriguing matchup.
You can never go wrong with Lakers.
You can't get better ratings than Lakers Celtics. So
agree. All right. So that gives that puts us with the Celtics and the Pistons. I think we're probably both in agreement that we don't see this being much of a series either.
I see this being like a 4-2. The Pistons will put up a bit of a fight there, but they're outgunned. The Celtics are so deep and well-rounded. They've got it.
Okay, so I've got Cavs Celtics, and that means that you've got Bucks and Celtics. So who you taking to get into the final on the East?
I've got the Celtics here. The Celtics are the most complete team. I've got them just on a different echelon than anyone else in the East. So I'd go Celtics in 5 at that point.
Okay. All right. So there's our East. So now let's flip over to the West, and then we'll do our final pick there at the end. So
this is where I get crazy, is the West.
This is where you get crazy. Okay.
Oh,
well,
yeah.
Let's get into the crazy then. So we got OKC going up against, I think it would
The Grizzlies.
The Grizzlies. Are you going crazy here, or are you going?
Yeah, I'm going crazy here. So OKC has that feel to me of the team that like has the great regular season. They're very young and they're just not quite ready. So I'm going to take the Grizzlies in 6 on this one. The Grizzlies have been in the spot that the Thunder are in now before. They were a very they were a very good 2 seed a couple years back and just crumbled in the playoffs. So that's what I've got here. The Grizzlies have the talent to potentially have been a much higher seed. Everything just kind of reshuffled. So can't get too hung up where everyone is seeding wise. Of course, Shea's awesome, right? And he'll show up and score a lot of points, but I've got Grizzlies, a little more playoff experience and grit. I'm taking them in a big upset there.
Yeah, that's a huge one. I did not see that one coming, so I like it. I'm not going there though. I still think I like OKC. You go 68-14. That to me, I feel like you're getting by by one of these teams. But I like the points that you brought up. But I think OKC will use this round. I think because of that, they might struggle a little bit more. It might not be a 4 or 5 game series, but I see them still coming out. I'll take them in 6 on this one. All right, so that gets us to Nuggets and Clippers, which is, I think both of these 4-5s on the East and West could just be really, really fun. So what do you think? What do you got on this one?
So yeah, the 4 and 5, the Nuggets and Clippers. Nuggets, the Jokic is great, but they have been like floundering at the wrong time towards the end of the season here. Clippers are red hot coming into the playoffs. Nuggets could squeak through this series, but I'm good. Yeah, Nuggets could squeak through this series, but I've got the Clippers taking this one in 7, just knocking the Nuggets out right away, first round.
Okay, I think I'm kind of with you on that one. I don't.
Yeah,
I mean, Denver's been a little bit, off and on all year too, and the Clippers just. I think they've been working the more consistent team. They both end up with 50 and 32 records. I think I like that pick too. So
Jamal Murray's not going to be back. And if he is, he's definitely not going to be 100%.
100%, right? Yeah, that could be a big factor. All right, so then that gives us here the Lakers and the Timberwolves, the 3-6.
I'm gonna keep going. Upset. This is my big one, though. The Timberwolves are great. Don't forget last year they beat a loaded Nuggets team in 7, came back from down 3-2 and won that, and they were just gassed against Luka in the conference finals. I have my Anthony Edwards autographed jersey here.
There it is.
Yep, he's my favorite player, and he's the first player I've seen, of course, Kobe Bryant a little bit, but the first player I've seen that reminds me of Michael Jordan. It's just his swagger. He plays every game. He's super competitive. I got Timberwolves in 6 here.
Wow,
Sorry, LeBron. And here's the thing. The Lakers, they've got all that offensive firepower. Anthony Davis is gone. They've got no big presence. Here comes Rudy Gobert, one of the last true centers in the game. They're going to be outmatched. It's a horrible matchup for LA.
Do you think maybe the Lakers were secretly hoping that the Warriors stayed in that spot? Because I kind of agree with you. I think the Lakers would have been I think the Warriors would have been a way easier matchup for the Lakers than what the Timberwolves will be.
Yeah, the Nuggets and the T-Wolves are horrible matchups for the Lakers. They made that decision to bring in Luka, and remember when that trade happened? First of all, that was just crazy. Like, is this real? I just thought it was like some blogger posting something that doesn't know what they're talking about. No, Luka actually got traded for the Lakers. But we kept waiting for, okay, so what backup center, quality center are they going to sign? Who are they going to bring in? It just never happened. They just think they can run a very lean 5-guard offense the whole way, and it's not going to work against these bigs. So
I hear your concerns, and I appreciate them, but like I said, I want that matchup. So I'm taking the Lakers. Midnight Rider, who's on here on the show too, he's a huge Laker fan. He always he's the Lakers in 5 is always his answer, but I don't think it's going to be 5. I think this is going to be a 7-game series. I think for whatever reason the home court advantage will actually come through, and I think we'll see. This is where it just seems like LeBron still always plays his best and when it matters most. And I think, like you said earlier, I think this is getting to he's got maybe 1 or 2 more years at best, but we'll see here where that goes. Ben puts Rudy Gobert, I swear, don't care. Lakers. See, I told you he's going to say Lakers in 5. His nickname on the show is Midnight Rider, so I knew somehow he's going to come out with Lakers in 5 out of this thing. So that's where he always goes. So
nice,
all right.
Ben.
All right, so we got Houston going up against who are they going up against there?
The Warriors.
Warriors, right? Yep. So who do you like in this one?
I'm going with my upsets, Matt. I got the Warriors coming in. Their playoff experience will just be too much for a very, very young Rockets team. Jalen Green and crew, it's the same situation the way I view the Thunder. Great regular season, playoff time's different. The All-Stars start playing defense. There's no load management. Every game is a battle, and it's going to be like teams like the Thunder and the Rockets, they're going to get there, but think of the Timberwolves' first 4 seasons. They had to take some quick outs and losses before they made the deep run last year. That's the boat I got the Thunder and the Rockets in. I got Warriors in 5.
Wow. So not even taking that long to get rid of them. I like it. I can't argue. This was one too where I just don't. It's like weird where I didn't think the Warriors would be a great matchup for the Lakers. I think that if they do end up playing the Rockets, I do think that's a much better matchup for them. So if that ends up happening for them, I think that's a good spot for them too. And I agree with you. I would take Golden State to win that one.
Nice.
Just also because I want a Lakers Golden State. I think that
I know. I'd love to see that series again.
I think that's also what I was going for on that one. So anyway, all right. So that means then you've got all kinds of upsets here going on here. So in your semifinals, that leaves you with what, the Clippers and
the Grizzlies
and the Grizzlies, right?
Yep. And the Clippers historically do not advance far in the playoffs. Every year it's like, oh, it's the Clippers year. It's never the Clippers year. I can't take the Grizzlies in this spot, though. It's killing me just because of the way the bracket's set up. The other side of my bracket is so much stronger than this side of the bracket. So I'm going to go with the Clippers, not because I feel like they're a conference finals quality team, but they're the best of the 4 options that I had on that side of the bracket.
Okay, I still had OKC going through this part, so that's my team going through there. Yeah. So that's who I might
be dead wrong on the OKC thing, but I'm rolling with my upsets. I'm feeling like a lot of chalk in the East and a lot of upsets in the West.
Upsets in playoff season is good. Like, it's fun watching a team that didn't, the year when Denver was the 8th seed and they won the series. I always have that memory of, was it Dikembe that was laying on the court after it, if I remember right?
Dikembe Mutombo, yeah. And I remember the Warriors with Baron Davis, one of my all-time favorites. They went in and beat the Mavericks with Dirk Nowitzki. Do you remember that series? That was incredible. Yes. Baron Davis was just on another level. And that's actually why the NBA switched playoff series from 5-game series in the first round to 7, because they didn't want their premier teams getting
knocked out. Yep. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, so that gives you got Timberwolves against Warriors, and I got Lakers against Warriors.
Yeah. I love my Timberwolves, and this is the year they take that step. Warriors are old, they're experienced, but they got a lot of tread on the tires. It's going to show against a very youthful Timberwolves team led by the best player in the league, in my opinion, and Anthony Edwards. And I got the Timberwolves taking them out in 5.
All right. I've got the Lakers in that because I told you I want it. So we're going. I'm sticking with that all the way through. So
your bracket, although our brackets are different, Matt, yours would be such entertaining television.
And that's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
I want at least okay, because since I'm a very casual NBA fan, I want the matchups that at least would get me to go, okay, I'm clicking over I want to see how this thing plays out and watch maybe more of it. Now, granted, the NBA playoffs go at the same time as the NHL playoffs go, so it's hard for me to find the time, but I want at least those matchups that will get me to try to find the time for sure.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's see. So then that gives you've got Clippers going
And
up
Timberwolves.
against the Timberwolves, and
Yeah, look at
you're,
this. I got a 5 and 6 seed playing in the
yep.
championship here.
And I kind of feel
And
like you're leaning towards the Timberwolves the way you've been talking about
oh
them. Am I
yeah,
right?
we're going Timberwolves in 6. Continuing to build that momentum and keep going.
All right. So then I think that gives you've got a Celtics Timberwolves final then, right?
Yes.
And are you going all the way
I'm
on this upset
going
pick?
all the way with Anthony Edwards. T-Wolves in 7.
There
In
you
7.
go.
And I'm going to go with the classic comeback. Celtics up 3-2. Wolves win the last 2 games and take
Now,
it. This is their year. They were
if they win the
almost
last
ready
two,
last year, but not quite.
would
This
that
year
be in
they
the
got it.
Garden too? If they win the last two, would they have to win those in the Garden? Right? Is that how are they doing?
Yeah,
2-3-2?
depending on the record. Let's see the records. I'm sure they would. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
Oh
the
no,
Celtics
the
would win.
first one would be in Minnesota. They do
Okay, so they
2-2-1-1-1
do
now. They used to
2-2-1-1-1.
do 2-3-2, but they
Yeah, I
switched
can
it
remember they flipped that
2-2-1-1-1.
over to it. Well,
Yeah.
hey, I love a good upset pick, and I would not be upset at all if the Minnesota Timberwolves won it, especially if they beat the Boston Celtics, because our guy on here, Jack Carr, is just all he does is just Celtics, blah blah blah. So if that takes the Celtics out, I'd be okay with that. But personally, I want it to be the Cavs because he's been talking trash about the Cavs all year too, and I just been quietly like, hey, they did win 64 games. He so. But I do have these concerns that you have too with the Cavs. It's just something about how they ended the year, and I know some teams do this when you got everything wrapped up. It's hard to get ramped up for some of these games, but I still think you want to go in with some type of momentum. And I don't know that they do have it, but they're my pick. I want them to win it because it's a 100% homer pick. I admit it, but the last time the Cavs won it, that sent the Guardians on a nice little run for the rest of the season. So I'm hoping for that symmetry again there.
Are we going to a finals game if they make it?
Am I going?
Yeah. Are we
No.
going? We should
No,
go.
I'm not going. I won't be able to afford that. I won't be able to afford that ticket. So that ticket's going to be out of my price range for sure. So, all right. Well, I definitely appreciate your NBA expertise. That's why I wanted you on here for sure, because like I
that
said,
was fun.
You have the talking points that I was not going to be able to bring up and be able to sell any pick that you make. And I like that Timberwolves pick. I'll be honest with you. That's one I like that one. We'll see how that one goes. All right. So now I'm going to pull you into my world for a little bit here, because it's always time for my drive to the net segment. And so where I'm going to start with, of course, last week, Monday show, I had my hockey guys on. We broke down our top 5 greatest of all time after Ovi, broke the record. But was really impressive. This game was Sunday at 12:30 on TNT. The average TNT they've had this time slot for 2 or 3 years. If they've got a good game, they've got 500,000 at most watching it. It's just a terrible time slot. I don't know why they do it, but they do it, and that's the slot that this game was in. They had 1.2 million just on TNT alone for the Sunday 12:30 time slot, which is the highest ranking ever for this time slot.
High, yeah.
It's continuing this progress for the NHL of ever since the Four Nations tournament, which had great ratings. The Stadium Series in Columbus had the highest ratings that they've had. They've had some of these other marquee matchups that have had really good TV ratings, and this climb for them just keeps on going. I'm hoping it lasts into the playoffs, but when I dive in here to the standings, I'll give you my big concern of why I have a bad feeling for the ratings for this year when it comes to NHL playoff time. But it's nice to see 1.2 million on a Sunday at 12:30 watching hockey.
Yeah. If I could put a question to you hockey wise, for my audience that's, might be tuning in right now, more of a football audience, not as into the hockey scene. What is the NHL doing to kind of evolve the game and attract new fans and get those ratings up and everything? What are you seeing as a hockey fan?
Well, see, the NHL's done a lot of things right this year. The Four Nations tournament was an instant success. I think that helped to bring in people because instead of doing this stupid, terrible All-Star game, which all these leagues are struggling with, the only one that still seems to have it right is baseball. They kind of got rid of the All-Star game and they did this little 2-week break where they did this 4-team tournament, and the ratings for that were amazing. So I think that is one of the things that they've done well. They marketed the hell out of OV going for this goal record. That's gone really well for them. The problem is, though, of course, the NHL's biggest superstar is Connor McDavid, but he plays for the Edmonton Oilers, so he's in West Coast and he's in Western Canada. So it's hard to get him to those mainstream TV audiences, and the NHL has never done a great job of marketing star players that aren't in what I call the big three cities. If they're not in Boston, if they're not in Pittsburgh, and if they're not in New York, they don't do as great of a job as marketing them. And there's still this little bit, I think, where is the hardcore NHL fan, especially if they're from Canada, if it's a player that's not from Canada, for lack of a better word, they just get shit on. And so the NHL is still trying to figure that part out. I don't think that the NHL is still second fiddle on ESPN, even when they have games on ESPN. Like it just, using the Stadium Series, they started the Stadium Series game, which is the premier outdoor game other than the Winter Classic. They delayed the start for 30 minutes for the end of a regular season college basketball game. So that tells you where the NHL ranks. Instead of moving a game over to a different network, that lets you know where they feel that the ESPN. And I think it's part of the reason why baseball's leaving ESPN after this year too. ESPN has basically become football and basketball, and the other two sports are kind of second fiddle. So I don't know that the NHL's honestly done enough to get people to watch it. It still is a sport that if you go live, and I've had this experience with taking people to their first NHL game ever live, once you're there live, especially if you get in for a playoff game, you're hooked. It's just the greatest event live, especially for a playoff game. On TV, hockey it's hard because if you don't know where to watch the puck, you don't know where to look for it. You're trying to find the puck, and then by that, it's hard. You got to kind of almost go to, okay, I'm going to be looking at where the puck is going, not where the puck is, and that's hard to do sometimes on TV because you're dependent on a cameraman of having the right angle to be able for you to do that. So it just doesn't sell well on TV like it does live, and so I think that's the other part of the problem that the NHL is always going to have. It just doesn't hit on TV like it does live.
Yeah, it's so fun live. I've been to a few Pittsburgh Penguins games, and it's an absolute blast.
Yeah. And, so they've still got to work that out, so I don't know, and that's where the NHL just always does a lot wrong. And I don't know that they will ever get it totally right. We'll see what they do with their next contracts. TNT's done a decent job with their coverage. I actually like their coverage better than ESPN most nights. But we'll see how that contract goes. I think that the NHL needs ESPN. They just have to have that. They have to have that bigger audience than what they can get on TNT. So they've got to bite that bullet. Unfortunately, I don't think that they can pull what baseball just did and just say peace out.
Yeah,
we're going to go somewhere else. But what does help is the college hockey. The Frozen Four ended up this weekend. Western Michigan Broncos win their first national championship in any sport. They're a MAC school for football and basketball. They're not a MAC school for hockey, obviously, but they took down the Boston University Terriers. Boston University was in their 25th Frozen Four appearance, so they took down one of the big boys in a really good final. It was kind of a weird one. Western Michigan got off to an early lead, but BU gets a goal. Then BU has a almost goal that may or may not have crossed the line, but the defenseman was laying in the crease, so you couldn't see the puck did or didn't cross it. So they went with that, no goal. Then they have another goal that the puck does enter the net, but it's after the referee blew the whistle dead because it was kind of covered up. The ref couldn't see it. It happens being a hockey official. I've had it happen to me where you think the goalie's got it covered, and then the puck pops out, and it's your oh crap, and then the puck's in the net, but the goal couldn't count because the whistle clearly blew before it. So they get a couple breaks like that, but then they score another goal late, and then they get a couple empty netters. The final score was 6-2, but it was a much closer game than that. The star for Western Michigan is Owen Michaels, scored 4 goals in the 2 games for them. Western Michigan had first beat the defending champion Denver team in double overtime. That was an amazing game on Friday night. They won that in double overtime. But the Frozen Four delivered again. They have sellout crowds in St. Louis for both, all three games, which is good to see. So I do always love seeing that. Now, you got any comments on that there?
No, not too much on that.
I didn't think so. So all right. So now, so let's get it here. So now the NBA regular season just ended. The NHL is getting close. We've got two games left for everybody. And where this is really getting fun is towards the both of them. Most of the spots here are actually set to go. But we got the battle for the final wild card spots in the East and the West. Montreal is currently at 88 points. Columbus is the only team that could catch them at 85. Basically, where both team scenarios are at is Montreal has to win one of their final two games or a loss in overtime or shootout where they would get a point. They just need a single point in their last two games. They play Chicago tonight, and then they play the Carolina Hurricanes in 2 nights for their possibility to get in. If Columbus has to win their last 2 games of the season as well. And I was trying to look up here real quickly because I had it in my head and it slipped out of my head of who Columbus plays in their last 2 games, but I believe they are pretty winnable games if I remember correctly. Let me pull them up here. Come on. But I don't think it's going to matter, unfortunately, for Columbus because I'd be shocked. Montreal's playing tonight at home against Chicago. Chicago's terrible. I just can't see any way, shape, or form that they lose that game. But if they do, they could lose to Carolina because then the pressure starts to build. You got them playing 2 home games. The Montreal crowd can be brutal if things start going bad quickly. Columbus plays the Flyers at Philly on Tuesday, and then they end the season on Thursday at home against the Islanders. So Columbus can easily win those last 2 games. It's just a question of does Montreal give them any hope at all to slip into one of those 2 final playoff spots? And that I don't know if they say. One of your guys is joining BTP.
Dave there's Dave. He's wearing the same shirt I am.
Dave says Dylan loves hockey. He says Montreal could do some damage in the playoffs, has an 8 seed, leaves out in the first round as usual. You could be right, Dave. If you want to hear our predictions, though, you're going to have to wait till next week's show. We're going to do I wanted to keep the NBA separate because I was worried about the time element. So we're going to do our NHL breakdown next week because the playoffs will start technically on that Saturday and Sunday. So the games will be 1, maybe a couple series might be 2 games in when we get to the show on Monday. But check that out on Monday. Next week's show, you'll see where we go on that one for sure. So the West, though, is also kind of a little bit in that similar situation. We've got St. Louis is right now in. St. Louis went on an all-time heater. They had won 12 in a row. They've only got 1 game left, and basically same thing. If they get a point in their last game, they are in. But if they lose in regulation, then Calgary can actually leapfrog them. And they still have a chance to leapfrog Minnesota as well, because Minnesota is also at 95 points. Calgary's sitting there at 92, but Calgary has 2 games. So if Minnesota or St. Louis lose one of their last games, Calgary has to win both of their last games to get into the playoffs. Let's see here. I think one of them plays tonight. Nope. They don't play tonight. Tuesday is when this fun begins. So Tuesday, you've got the St. Louis Blues are at home against Utah. They should win that game. They, on paper anyway, but you never know once you get to these games where you've got to win to get in type situations, how that will all play out. Calgary is at home against the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights have clinched their spot. They've clinched the top spot in the Pacific, so they don't really have anything to play for. I don't know if they're going to rest guys or not. So that's always an interesting spot too, where you just don't know who's going to play who and what and when. And then Thursday is the Flames' last game at home, or they're on the road at LA. And again, same thing. LA is sewn up their spot. They could still maybe be playing for home ice against Edmonton in that first round matchup. So we'll see how that goes for them. But I think both Minnesota and St. Louis get in, but Calgary's got the better chance, I think, got over Columbus of getting in, just because I can't see Montreal losing tonight to Chicago. Just don't see that happening at all.
I'd love to see them miss, though. I've got beef with the Canadians for a long time here because I was betting big on Montreal in their series against the Lightning. I want to say 2014, 2015 in the playoffs, and they were heavy favorites. It was like such a sure thing, and that started like all the Lightning championships and stuff. And and them making deep playoff runs. It was like right then, and I kept doubling down, like, oh, they lost the first game, they won't lose the next one. Oh, and I just got destroyed. So I'm always like, no, not the Canadians. Well, I'll even cheer for the Lightning now. Go Lightning.
You've held a grudge. I like that. I got
big time, yeah.
Well, Tampa's not going to have an easy first round. They unfortunately draw the defending champs. They get Florida in their first round game in the Battle of Florida. That's a set matchup. Carolina is going to get New Jersey. That matchup is set. Toronto is going to get they're going to get the first wild card team. So Toronto is playing Ottawa. So you got the Battle of Ottawa. That's going to be fun. And then this just is for who's playing Washington. Washington has not played well down the stretch. I think they match up better with Montreal than Columbus, honestly. I think Columbus could give them some fits, but I we'll see what happens there. In the West, Winnipeg is going to get the lowest team of what's left here. So right now they would get St. Louis, which is the hottest team in hockey. So they may be secretly hoping that Calgary gets in there. Vegas will get the other one that's left, and I think that's going to be fun. The matchup of the West is going to be Dallas and Colorado. These two teams, you could make an argument, could make the Stanley Cup final. They're going to have to play in the first round. And Edmonton plays LA. I think this is the fourth year in a row that Edmonton will be playing LA in the first round. And Edmonton has won every first round so far against LA. So I don't know if this will be different or not. Ben here's got a topic. Pin that idea. Grudges you have. Oh, yeah, I like that. That could be a good future show. Your sports grudges that you just can keep hold of. So, all right. So we're getting down here to this. It's time to look a little bit down the road. I did want to touch briefly on this. These NILs and the transfer portals and look, I've got no problem with the kid making money. They should be making money. They should have been making money all along. But you're hearing more and more of these, like Gino, I thought said it great. He was talking about this after UConn won. He's like, with the transfer portal, he's like, could you ever imagine the NBA or the NFL starting their free agency in the middle of the playoffs? And, of course, everyone's answer is no, it's stupid, right? So when these transfer portals open up is a problem. And he's like, even in professional sports, who's a free agent, who you can and who you can't go after, where in college sports right now, everyone is a free agent. And it seems like you're a free agent up and even through the middle of the season almost sometimes with some of these things that's going on. I don't know how to fix this. I mean, like, I think these kids should be allowed to make money and make it wherever they want, but and it's the NCAA that we're asking to fix something, and we all know how that goes. Like, how do we fix this?
Yeah, it's such a difficult problem. I love that players are being compensated now. That is so overdue. I just have never been a fan of the NCAA and how they run things. They just have way too many rules for their own good. Like, it gets in the way. I would like to see something where a certain tier of school, maybe it's all D1s, but I know not all D1s have the capital for it. A set structure of some sort for salary would be helpful. Because right now it's kind of like baseball. You got no cap, and your big schools that have the biggest alumni and can raise the most money can draw the most in. Where if there was some way that it could be standardized, like NIL deals have a max of this or that, and you sort of had like a soft cap, that could help level the playing field a little bit and make everything more competitive and probably discourage some of the transferring. I don't know. It's a very difficult problem to solve, though. Do you have any ideas?
I know, because it's like, look, coaches can pick up and leave any second that they get, right? And so I think the players should have that flexibility too. Especially with, like, my whole thing was, if a coach leaves, the player should be able to leave at that time right away. And then, but you have some of these kids that are basically, they're going from school to school to school almost every year. And it's like, okay, well, how is that? And like you're seeing people leave like South Carolina basketball, and you're seeing people leave like, Georgia football. And it's just like, why? Like, if you want to go somewhere to win a national championship, but maybe that's not a kid's goal. Maybe that's not every kid's goal. I don't know. Maybe their goal is just to, maybe they honestly know that they're not, that their career is limited to what they're going to get in college. So they're just trying to make every penny that they can with these deals. I can't blame a kid for that. I don't know. I don't know that there's an easy solution to it. I do think that the one easy solution is transfer portals don't open up until that season is completely done. Like,
yeah.
I think that's the easy one that needs to be fixed, right? Like let's get the transfer portal for baseball doesn't open up until the College World Series is over. It doesn't start for basketball until the Final Four is done. It doesn't start for football until the national championship game is played. That to me would at least be a great starting point of let's not open up these portals until that school is done. And then maybe they close. And then once they close, that's it until that season's over with again.
Yeah, the point about moving it is a strong one, I think. And you also have to think of the quality of life of some of these coaches in college football. The season never ends for them.
Yeah.
And you might get coaches that if they get even just a tiny part of the year where they can rest a bit, they might be on their A game for a lot longer the time where they're on. So there could be some unexpected benefits with making some adjustments like that.
I 100% understand now totally why Nick Saban just said, peace out.
Yes, right. And, like, I'm not dealing with this.
Yep. Yeah. I don't get it at all. So we'll see. I think it's something interesting, but all right, we're getting close to the end here. I did real quick want to kind of bring up some baseball stuff. So I'm going to bring up here this one last time here. We're getting to that point now. We're about 15, 16 games in where you can kind of start seeing at least some trends here of who's doing well, who's doing bad. In the East, there's a lot of muddle. The top spots in most divisions are 9-6, 9-7. Other than the White Sox who are just trash. At 4-11, most of the teams are right there in the middle. No one really in the East has separated themselves, or in the AL has really separated themselves. My Cleveland Guards had won 5 in a row. They lost last night, but they're finally starting, I think, to turn it around a little bit. But they've got a big series coming up against a Baltimore team who's off to a really slow start, which is surprising. They're only 6-9, and I really thought Baltimore was going to be fighting for that division lead. So we'll see how that series goes for both of those teams. But my kind of early surprise is the NL West, and not in the sense that I knew the LA Dodgers would be good, but they're kind of even a little bit slower start than I thought they would.
Yeah.
But it's the San Diego Padres and the San Francisco Giants. I did not see these teams being 13-3 and 11-4 this far into the season.
Yeah. Dodgers starting a little bit slow. I'm going to go see Ohtani when he's in town in Cleveland. Oh, yeah, that's going to be awesome. So.
Yeah, I can't remember if we got tickets for an LA game or not. I can't remember if we do or don't. I think we do for some reason.
But the end of May.
End of May. Yeah, if it's a weekend, then I'm there because we have Friday and Sunday. So if it's a weekend series, I'm there. If it's a weekday series, probably not. The East is, the Braves are so beat up right now. They're just having a hard time with staying healthy. I think that they're a team that's going to be interesting. If I can pull this up here, I think I had this here later. Let's see.
The Mets are always intriguing to me. I'm curious how they do this season. There's Pete Alonso right at the top of the list.
Yeah, this is for this is some of the exit velocity stuff. That's not what I was after though. I just wanted to pull up like batting average and stuff, and I had it and then I lost it. But let's see here if we can come back here. No, I just want ML Stack has. Let's see if that was it. I think I hit the wrong one. Now, see, this is what sometimes I hate the MLB website. It's like, no, I just want to have regular stats. So anyway, all right, we won't worry about that part here because we are already getting at 6 o'clock here. So I want to.
Oh wow, time flies when you're.
I know time flies on the show. See, so So this last little bit here that I always call is the exit ramp. This is where we get towards the end of the show. Next week is going to be a big show. I want to do a mock draft with as many people that we can. Even if you can't be on from 5 to 6, if you have an interest, comment on the show in either the Facebook or the YouTube comments. I want to have as many fans of the players that we can, or of the teams that we can. Make your team's picks, even if it's just me reading who you picked and why. That's okay with me.
Jags are on the clock at 5, so
that's right. So I've got you down making the Jags pick for sure. And then we're also going to, of course, do our NHL previews. So my buddy Vic will be back, trying to work on either Showtime Sarah, which is my daughter, or Jeff and Scott too might come back in from the one that was on there for the hockey show. We're going to do just what we did for the NBA, except it's going to be for the NHL because we'll have all those there. But I also want to give Dylan a chance because we're kind of combining audiences here. We got this. we got the sideline junkies and we got our audience, but I know you've got a huge audience with the breaking the plane, and I want to kind of give you just a couple of quick seconds to explain to people how it works and if they're interested in it, because you got a chance to win some really great sports memorabilia. Give you a couple seconds here to kind of go over how it works for everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So breaking the plane, I run autographed memorabilia mystery box breaks. So these boxes, like for instance, behind me, I've got this big box. I'll just grab it real quick. It's a full-size helmet, one autograph certified full-size helmet in here. We don't know what player or team it is. These boxes are almost $500 to purchase outright. But at Breaking the Plane, you can buy in for a team for as low as $30 and have a chance to hit the team that's in that box. So let's say you're a Cleveland Browns fan. You could buy the Browns, and if the Browns come out of that box, you just got that helmet for a very low price, as opposed to if you just buy a box outright and open it, you're like, oh my gosh, it's a TJ Watt Steelers. I hate the Steelers. I don't want to put this in my house. What's going on? So we also run a lot of card breaks, and when we open a box of cards, if you purchase a team, you get all the team's cards that come out of that box. Another thing we've been doing a lot recently is personal breaks, where you just purchase a box or a pack outright. I know you got a lot of hockey fans listening in. We have these packs of 2020, 2021 Upper Deck Hockey. They're just a $3.50 live rip with free shipping. Shipping's always free at Breaking the Plane. So I encourage everyone, go to breakingtheplane.com to check it out. We have a bunch of autographed memorabilia just straight up for sale. Everything from like bargain $25 jerseys to $3,000 Tom Brady full-size helmets. And then you can get into breaks for all major sports and even entertainment. We're running like Marvel packs now. Ninja Turtles is out there. Some Batman product coming in. There's something for everybody. So thanks for the opportunity to do a plug. And I just got a comment that we've been talking so much NBA. Look what team is in the middle of the screen here. Maybe it's a sign. There's the Timberwolves.
Yeah, and I didn't even plan that out either. But yeah, look at that right there. There they are. That's kind of funny. Your pick to win it is right there, smack dab in between us. So that is the good stuff. One last little comment here. My daughter must be with my other daughter, Ash. So they say hi to me. So
hi, Ash.
Hi, kiddos. Hope you guys are doing good. But there we have it. So Dylan, I hope you enjoyed it. You're definitely welcome back anytime you want to join me on the show and ramble about sports for an hour. And hopefully, I think this is a good combination, the Sideline Junkies. And I know there's going to be some people that are on our site that would definitely have an interest in what you do, and I'm hoping that vice versa, because for those that may be watching from the Breaking the Plane audience, there's more than just my show on the Sideline Junkies. You have the main guys that invited me in here that are on every Tuesday and Thursday night. They usually start the show between 7:30 8 o'clock. The Tuesday night is the Tuesday night flight. The Thursday is the Thursday night showdown. That features a couple different guys, the Gentleman Jack, the Midnight Rider, sometimes the Boss Man BJ, and KG are on there. Wednesday, the Gentleman Jack hosts a show called The Passenger Seat, and that is a straight 1 hour interview show. And he's had different, you name different sports. He's had guys, he's had coaches on there. I've always found the coaches really good to talk to. So that's a great show to check out as well. The show on Sunday is called the Sunday Morning Rise. That is a great show, especially when we get back to the NFL season, because these guys will break down a different couple matchups. They break down some injuries as they come up as well. And even if you're into professional wrestling, the WrestleManiac show is on Saturday nights at 9 o'clock. That's a fun show for anyone that's into the professional world of wrestling. So for those that are watching here on the Breaking the Plane, if you got a chance and you got some time, go to the Sideline Junkies podcast. You can find us on through the Facebook or through YouTube. You can subscribe, and then they also do eventually show up through anywhere where you find your podcasts, as they like to say. Good stuff. With that, Dylan, you got any last words before we wrap it up?
Oh, well, thanks for having me on, Matt. It was a pleasure. Always love chatting sports. I thought we had a really nice back and forth here, and let's go Timberwolves.
I love that. Let's go Timberwolves. I like that ending. So, well, my ending, I always end it, and Dylan is a former All-State guy with me, so we always talk to from claims days of you just never know what's going to happen with an auto claim. So the way I end all my shows is make sure that you hug your loved ones, tell them that you love them, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. But if we are all here, hopefully you'll join us again on the Sideline Junkies. And with that, I say have a good night.
All right, see you, everybody.